Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the weekly AI Revolution live stream, coming to you in living color via YouTube, X, and Facebook. We have John D. Oliveira here, our AI expert. He has been in the industry, I think, 27 or 28 years, and I'm going to try to get this right.
I honestly don't know, but
Okay.
roughly
Somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, it's not 1998.
Okay, 26 years, is that right?
I guess so. Yeah.
So he's been doing this a long time, a lot longer than Sam Altman. And so just throwing that out there. And anyways, and I'm Bryce Smith. I work at 10,000 Days Capital Management, a hedge fund. And then we also have a Trading with Cody website that everybody should go check out. But every week we get on here and we talk about everything that happened in AI over the last week or so, and then how we can potentially invest in it and what it means for markets and the economy and business in general. So today was the keynote address of the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, and they announced a bunch of AI stuff. So we'll definitely talk about that today. But yeah, John, I think you said you watched the keynote. So what, I guess maybe just kind of first off, give us your takes.
Hey, can we do an opening act, and then that's our main thing?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
The opening act, I would say, is this week is Kling.
Okay.
Which is the Chinese company released, or they didn't release, they demoed basically Sora. And so that's that capability that OpenAI showed for doing video. This new company, their version of it, will do 1080p, which is HD, 30 frames per second, 2-minute long videos. And it's the same thing. Anything you type, I want a little dog with a hat on, blowing out candles, or anything you could think of. And then whether you want it to be realistic looking or like cartoon like or whatever, car driving down the road, whichever kind of car, whatever kind of road, right? It does all that, and it looks basically just like Sora.
Really?
So the moral of the story, I think, is once you see anybody, OpenAI, whoever else, come out with one of these capabilities, I think you can kind of say, okay, the capability has been introduced. There it is. And you'll start to see others, go and do it. You see that with the language models themselves. You see that with something like Sora. You certainly saw it with the things for, creating images.
Mm-hmm.
And then with making music, you had Suno, followed by Udio, followed by 11 Labs, showing that they could do it too. They don't have an interface for it. But Udio just came out with where you load in any song or clip of a song or piece of you singing or whatever, and it'll take that as the input, the starting point to go build a song off of. So it's just these things continue to come out, and it's just an amazing new capabilities.
So John, does this Kling, is it actually available for use currently, or is it still, they just demoed it?
It's more available than Sora. That is, Sora is not available at all. Except they've given it to a few of their close friends in Hollywood or something. This one, you can apparently, if you live in China, can enter a phone number into a certain website and sign up. It's waiting list, but they're close. It looks like they're closer to giving it out than Sora than OpenAI is. Yeah. But neither one of them are like the average you and me. We're not getting them yet.
Right.
But, we're just more at the stage of seeing what's possible.
And with Kling, how long of videos could it make? Did they
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Yeah.
And OpenAI Sora was about right there, 90 seconds.
About a minute. Yeah. Yeah.
So how much, I guess then the constraint on making a feature film out of purely AI text prompts is the compute capacity that's available to do that and dedicate to that task at this time. Is that?
Well, I mean, if they're going to give that out to, I won't say anybody, like everybody, but anybody, like not nobody, like if some people are going to be able to get it, then those some people will be able to make 2-minute clips, and it may take half an hour to make a 2-minute clip. But for, you know, a movie, that's nothing. Of course, you make it, you want to go, you don't like it, you remake it, things like this. But if you look and make that comparison back to the music thing for a minute, and see how you can get out with those ones, it's like 15 or 30 seconds. I think it's 30 seconds. And you're like, yeah, I don't know, let me hook something more on before it, after it, adjust something about it. And then with the image ones like Dolly, there's like I don't know if Dolly has it, but the other one does. But like in painting, where you're like, here's a picture, change. I'm putting a circle around it, change just that part.
So yeah, Outlook does have that now. I tried that the other day.
Yeah, so you know, those things are needed in it for it to be. But I would say, you know, it's closer than a lot of people would have thought that. You start making, and it's never going to be the same. It's not like, here, we did it and Hollywood did it and it's the same thing. It's more like you'll go after its strengths, etc. But it'll be making lengthy, interesting stuff within the next couple of years. And it's gonna,
I mean, it seems like to me, if the technology is that far along to where you can make 2 minutes, then I mean, even if it was just a matter of piecing together 2-minute clips, that would still be a huge time savings for a production company.
Yeah.
And, you know, not Netflix or Amazon or somebody like that. Apple would be, you know, at least looking at a pilot project with OpenAI or somebody, or this Kling, you know, within the next year at least.
I mean, you know how rare a 2-minute it is for like a movie or anything to go on one camera shot for 2 full minutes.
Yeah, actually, I do know that now, because they filmed a movie in my hometown, and we got to watch some of the filming, and they filmed probably maybe a 30-second scene, maybe 45-second scene, and
all day.
Yeah. We watched it for 2 hours, and they did the same thing over and over again, and then just this lighting, right? Oh, change this, shake his hand, don't shake his hand, right? Like and it was the simplest scene. The guy drives up in a car. Joaquin Phoenix drives up and like hops out of the car and shakes the guy's hand and, hey, how are you? Like, that was it. And they did it over and over and over again. So,
hey, guess what he was in?
What was that? Oh, Her. Right. Yeah. I still haven't watched Her. I did watch Ex Machina. Have you seen that one?
Ex Machina. Yeah.
Or Ex Machina is how you say it. Okay.
Yeah, Ex Machina, which is like comes from Deus Ex Machina, which is Ghost in the Machine.
Okay.
You know, which is kind of like consciousness. You know.
Yeah. It was interesting.
It's fascinating. Yeah. It's scary. It's a scary movie.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the idea of it. Not to give a big spoiler or anything, but it's scary. Yeah.
But no, yeah, I definitely think that the incentive there is just too large for those companies to not at least start trying to use it somehow already. You know, the billions of dollars that's being spent on content creation nowadays, like at least a couple billion of that needs to be just probably already flowing towards some kind of AI generative tool for that stuff.
Yeah, you know, I think I mentioned once my brother's a Hollywood producer,
right? Yeah,
and you know, I got in touch with him and I said, I'm not sure there is a Hollywood 10 years from now.
Yeah,
and he said, well, 10 years, okay, I'll be retired. So, but you know, it's the sooner in time frames that are more of an issue.
No doubt. Well, is there any other topics, or do you want to talk about?
I noticed that OpenAI announced some hiring, a CFO, and
do you know anything about him or her? I'm not sure which.
Well, she was the chief finance person at Square.
Oh, okay.
And then they have a chief, I don't know if he's chief, but head of like a chief product officer or head product person. And that what was his background? I don't remember the name of the company he was with, but it's like, in a way, it's a position that Sam Altman's been doing, you know, and so maybe there's a little bit of get more mature, back off a little, do things the way companies do them, you know, because a lot of people get kind of nervous with their approach.
With OpenAI specifically, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just, I mean, they're a startup, even though they've been around like what, 8 years or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, but you don't know. Obviously, you don't know what's coming. Big advances, and they'll go and they'll do it and so forth. But in terms of, they don't have as much of a personality yet, like an Apple or a Microsoft, for people to be able to predict how.
I mean, I would say like 90% of maybe 80% of Americans still probably have never heard of or know of OpenAI.
Yeah,
I mean, they might have heard of ChatGPT, but they don't know the company behind the product or Sam Altman or.
Yes, although there's kind of also a declining concern over whether they do or they don't. In other words, the ones that know about them matter more to them than the ones that don't.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're continuing to make some moves there. I think they'll continue to try to improve their image after they had a bad week or two. Around talk of safety.
And you think, I wonder if even behind the scenes, Microsoft, as heavy of an influence as it has on OpenAI, is maybe pushing some of those, like, hey, you need a product guy, you need a marketing guy, whatever those positions are. Because I mean, Microsoft is corporate behemoth, and they know how that stuff is supposed to be structured.
Yeah, I mean, normally you hear that stuff from
they're the anti-startup, I think.
Yes, normally you hear that stuff from your board,
yeah.
But in this case, you really would think that Microsoft's got something to do there. Yeah, I agree.
Going back to your Sora for 1 second, do we know when OpenAI plans to release some form of that to the public?
Think probably a little bit before the heat death of the universe. It's not super soon. It's one of those ones they seem to be holding back, and I don't know whether they'll say it's for safety of what kind of stuff's going to get made with it. I guess it could be, and this is one of those things, like they seem to do their announcements and releases when they're like last time what they did it the day before Google's announcement. And don't get me started on Google. I know you guys are fans, but so I think in early December, as a way to deal with the fact that they're not ready to actually put out GPT-5 or whatever they're going to call it at that point. So
yeah, I mean, I just wonder too if there's not a compute constraint part of that, because I can't imagine the amount of compute it takes to make a video.
That's the other thing I was going to say. Yes,
right. Like it's expensive, and we're still trying to figure out how to monetize AI. Not we, but the tech industry is trying to figure out how to monetize it. And right now, ChatGPT is $20 a month, and if you just sat down and looked at the margins, they're probably like, there's not enough margin right now to just roll this out to all of our ChatGPT users at $20 a month and make any money, or it's going to cost us a fortime to pay for all that compute. So
I mean, I got the $20 a month subscription, and I've never felt better about a subscription and paying out that money. Totally.
Right. It's a great value right now. I just don't think it's enough to pay for, making long form videos like that. I mean, that's a premium offering. Like, what does Adobe charge for Photoshop, for example? $100 a month or something, like that's a pretty high end.
That stuff, just, even though I'm saying like I'm great with the $20 a month on OpenAI, and there's a difference for me, like the stuff that is more like a information service where there's compute going on the other end, versus this is how they've started to decide. This is how they've decided to charge for their software. That Adobe stuff makes me nuts. It's more like 800. It's some large amount of money, and it's annual. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. See, like for the whole Creative Cloud on Adobe, $60 a month. Yeah. So you're talking. Yeah.
So I think that's, I mean, it's certainly, there are people who are in that business. And then Figma started kicking their ass, and then didn't they buy Figma? I forget.
I don't know Figma.
Figma's like was the amazing thing was it's like web based. You could just go to the website, go there and start doing it, and it's got the whole called infinite canvas where you can zoom way in or way out, and it does like what you would do with not so much Photoshop. What's the one you use? Not Illustrator either, but for website design and creation. And it's just amazing. And everyone switched to it. And they're like, oh, I guess we better just, acquire them. I think that might have happened.
Sure. And the Sora would be way more compute intensive than any kind of Photoshop, I would think would be. Like, I don't like Photoshop, especially if you're downloading it, it's running on your own machine. So it takes no compute on the cloud.
Yeah. I mean, they just came up with a way to keep charging. By the way, there was an acquisition underway and they pulled out of it, and it was going to be a $20 billion acquisition of Figma. Wow. So it was a big deal. And I think, we'll see what happens there. Everybody I know in the, product management and design world switched over to Figma.
Really?
For website design, at least. Yeah. So it's, I just don't, that whole, do you know how much money, what were they, I'm going to forget the name, the Candy Crush, how much money they made?
No.
They had their own way of making money. It was, you can always use it for free, but you're limited on how much on a given day. And if you want to keep going, you're going to, or get it to help you through a round or whatever, you're going to pay $1 here, $1 there. And so they found their addicts, and they made, at the height of it, like $2 billion a year on that one silly game. I mean, wow. Yeah, I've played it, so I mean, it's not totally silly. It's but that's insane, right? It was just the model.
There's 7 or 8 billion people on the planet now. If you can get all of them to give you $1, you're doing all right.
Right? No, but they just went after some bored rich people who were going to go, oh, fine, here's another 1,000. Just let me play to,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds like I'm avoiding the topic. I'm not. They were just trying to cover down on some other things that were happening. So, yes, Apple.
News of the day.
Yeah. So now I am just to, full disclosure where I stand with Apple. I don't use an iPhone. My wife does, my daughter does. I have an Android phone, but I have an iPad, and I've used a MacBook for, forever. And so on the quote desktop, I think of it as like the way to go and everything like that. So I'm very pro Apple in general, but I'm got my ups and downs about today's stuff. So let's get into it.
I'm the opposite of you. I use the iPhone, and I don't use any other. I'm not an iPad guy. I'm not a Mac guy. So I'm an iPhone, but I do have the iPhone and love it. So everybody, if you weren't watching today's keynote address in mid-morning, if you were working or doing something else productive, you might have missed it. But Apple every year does their Worldwide Developers Conference, and they announce a lot of new products and stuff like that that they were working on. And so this was a very anticipated event this week because everybody, including the Apple team, was saying that this would be the event that they unveiled their AI strategy. Because thus far in the AI arms race, if you will, Apple has been like Slovenia or something. Like they're a non-player, right? And you have Google and Microsoft are really hammering it out for this kind of supremacy in AI. So Apple, obviously, what second most or third most valuable company on the planet now, has billions of installed iPhones and Macs around the world, and all this data on everybody. So as you could expect, everyone was really anticipating this AI announcement. So they came out today and they announced what they called Apple Intelligence, which, by the way, when I wrote the book for how how to invest in the AI revolution. The name of the Apple article is A is for Apple Intelligence. So I would like to take full credit for naming Apple's AI program now. But anyway,
Excellent, Bryce. You thought of that all yourself.
I think that was really creative and out of the box thinking there. So, anyways, but they announced a lot of I think exciting stuff coming to the operating system. They didn't announce like a new product or something, but they're basically going to build AI into the whole operating system for iPhone, iPhone, iPad, and the Mac. So, anyways, John watched the whole event. I watched most of the event. So, John, let's hear your take.
Why don't you tell me what you? Let's set the AI thing aside, just like they did on theirs. It came at the end. They talked about other stuff first. So they tend to like introduce hardware in a different, I think, event.
Yeah.
And then this one they introduce like the operating system upgrade essentially, and any new ideas, in and around the software and how the thing works and everything. So then they've got for each platform, a different, all the way down to Watch OS, for the Apple Watch. But they've got, different OS for each kind of form factor. So the main three, though, are the phone, the iPad, and the laptop. And the phone and the iPad used to be just iOS, both of them. Now they have iOS for the iPhone and iPad OS for the iPad. And up until then, I would make the joke that, you say you just have an iPhone, but you basically have an iPad too, just a really small one, because the only difference between the iPad is that it doesn't have a phone in it. It actually has all the same, it uses the same Play Store, the same apps. So, it's just a different.
It would be a bit awkward to hold up the iPad.
Yes, like this. If you were like this, then you know what it's like to. But everybody does it through the earbuds, anyways. Which that had a nice little feature to go.
Yeah, so you can. For those that didn't see it, when you get a phone call or something on, and you have your earbuds in, if you want to decline the call, you can just nod your head without having to say anything out loud, or if you want to accept it, you can nod your head. So, they're always coming up with creative stuff at Apple.
Yeah, if you're gonna be like they showed their example, on a crowded elevator, it's good that you can go like this. But if you're in a place where you can go like this, then you probably can just say yes, because you're about to start talking on the phone anyway.
Sure. Yeah, good point.
So, see, when they first said it, that they had this thing that was going to let you do, gesture recognition for that, I thought they meant like in the phone call, you'd be able to go, and it would go for you. It would go, or something.
I see.
So they're just talking about like pick up and hang up or something. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So what on the AI stuff, do you want to walk through kind of what they announced, John?
Oh, I thought you wanted to do the non-AI stuff.
Okay, well, we can do the non-AI stuff. You have like blue, like different color text messages now and responses.
Yes, I mean, this is the thing. This is the stuff that they're like, hey, everybody. And this is like, it's so Apple of them. Everything is, their use cases are always around. And now if you hear a song you like, you'll be able to do this and then make this happen in this pretty color.
I thought it was silly. Like I remember, literally the Apple TV. If like you like the song that's playing, you can add the song to your Apple Music playlist, and or you can like look up the actor and see what movies the actor was in. I was like, I have an Amazon TV, and I'm almost
You mean like Amazon has been doing for the last however many years, the thing about letting you see who's in this scene or whatever. Or the other one is like, oh, you can actually move the little app buttons or tiles or whatever. You can drag them and put them where you want on the screen. Oh, you mean like Android has had for 10 years? So, right, that's another one of them. So they're
the funniest one, the best example is the calculator on the iPad. Like, when did the iPad come out?
They're making a bit of a joke, to say like, oh, it's so exciting. But then they did get into a cool thing.
Yeah, I agree. Why did it take so long to put the dang calculator on the iPad?
Yeah. So here, okay, I'll tell you what my thing is about AI. So they announce Apple Intelligence, and they go start talking about it. And yes, one thing is, your Siri is going to have like your kind of chat GPT type intelligence behind it, supposedly.
Right.
Their use cases were not good. I mean, their examples were, you're talking to Siri, it's picking up on things that it knows because of what's on your device and so forth. But then it's like showing you a map or showing you something from your calendar.
It
And
doesn't respond like that. Like it doesn't talk
yeah,
back to you.
yeah, there wasn't. It didn't give a sense of like real intelligence or of it, having a conversation with you, kind of the way that GPT 4.0 did. And so, by the way, right, they did announce a partnership with OpenAI, Apple and OpenAI. So not clear what that means, compared to the Microsoft partnership. But I would imagine that it does mean something cool. And here's something on the really good side of things. Apple talked about the way that the smarts work is it will happen on your device if possible, but if it needs to be smarter, it will go to kind of a private cloud. And the way they described the private cloud was really pretty good and was very different than like Microsoft. So Microsoft comes out with their AI and they talk about recall and they talk about how it can see everything on your screen and like it just makes everybody, cringe because it's like Microsoft is saying they can see everything on your screen, and but Apple does the opposite. They go and say not only is it your stuff happening local to you, but if it does have to go to a place where it's getting bigger intelligence that's out there somewhere, not even Apple has access to that cloud. And third parties have access not to your data, but to the way the thing works and to checksums and things to make sure that it's operating the way that they say in terms of no data leakage, no private data getting out, all this kind of thing. It sounded way better. And actually, like, they've always been, I thought, ahead on, they go and like not give the government, even though this person over here is this serial killer. They're like, I'm sorry, we're not, going to.
They wouldn't give up the password, right?
Yeah. So like that kind of thing of this, that's not the business we're in. Go find some other way to. They've been like that before. They seem like they're continuing down that front, and I think that if they can pull it off and they can show that that is really what's happening, that they have a really something good there.
Yeah, there's a lot there. John just kind of walked us through. So maybe let's unpack part of that. I think, first of all, on this upgraded Siri, kind of, that's what you want to call it right now. You're going to say, hey, Siri, and then it's going to, I knew it would happen. It's going to, like, it doesn't look the same on the screen. It kind of just, like, your whole screen starts glowing is kind of the idea. And so that way you're not have, like, the separate interface. I think clearly where that's going is that, like, the problem with having, when you say the hey S, because I'm not going to keep saying in my phone, will keep going off, is that, like, it takes you into this whole other side of your phone, and then you have to, like, back out of it to go back to an app or something. Well, now the idea is that you can talk to Siri, and it will be able to kind of go into your apps, go into the weather app, go into non-Apple apps is the plan, see things, tell you things, and then just kind of have like a full context understanding of everything that's on your phone. Like, hey, mom sent me this date, then we're going to go to lunch, and then here's the deal on the calendar that actually shows the event, right? And kind of bring it all together so where you just pull out your phone and talk to it. Maybe you don't even have to open it or open an app. That's kind of the vision.
Well, you don't, in the sense that you, if you have a laptop and a phone, you can pull now your phone up on your laptop, like a little picture of your phone.
Mirror anything.
And you can just you can mirror it and just do your phone from your computer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's pretty exciting. And if the new version of Siri is like as good as, or something close to what ChatGPT's voice bot is, I think a lot of people are going to like love that because Siri right now is like pretty widely used. I think most people use it. Gosh dang it. I use it, but it is notoriously like bad at understanding you, and if you don't speak immediately, it cuts you off, and so I think
it's also
hopefully all that's in the rearview mirror.
It's like stupid as heck. I mean,
Yeah.
whether you talk about the Amazon ones, I got the
Alexa,
Amazon Home, Alexa, I got one with the video screen and all that down there, and I got one over here, just the speaker. You got Google had theirs for a bit. They're all terrible.
Right.
We went for all these years with these things. It's like, okay, I guess I'll ask it the weather.
Right.
And there's no understanding. And I say that in comparison to now what we know in terms of where we're going. And if you do have something like a GPT happening in that, for sure, it's a huge deal. And Apple, they're just a really clear brand. They know who they are and who their customers are and what they want to do for their customers. Privacy is one piece of it. Having everything be as easy as possible, happen in one place.
Right.
They laid out the things that they aim for, and I think they hit on those things.
Yeah, I would agree that there's I think the OpenAI announcement, because they didn't lead with that. Like they showed all of this functionality, right? That's supposedly coming out in iOS 18, and then they announced this partnership with OpenAI and really don't give much details on that. And so I think in my mind raises questions like, why do they need OpenAI? Now I'm doubting whether all the stuff you just showed me you really can do, or if you really actually need an OpenAI to enable all of that.
Well, I think that there's the stuff they gave with their use cases. They were like, find out about my mom's flight and where it is and where we're going to go for dinner and a couple things like that. And again, I left because there's always the use cases they fall back on. It's like, the 1% problem, where are we going to go for dinner when she flies in from Cabo? Right. And,
yeah.
So, yeah. But they go through these, there was just a few of those use cases, and they're all about understanding stuff that relates to the typical, apps that are happening on your phone or your laptop, whatever, involving your map and your calendar and couple of things. That stuff I believe they could do just right out of the gate and do it, as local as possible.
When you say typical apps, you mean like the Apple apps, the Apple native stuff that comes on the iPhone?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's because I'll get to that's my other beef I have with them. So is like, those are the couple of use cases. They don't talk about the others because they don't have them. But I believe that when they talk about, and if it's something that involves more thinking, compute, they talk about that now to the cloud. That's where you can say I expect their relationship with OpenAI to be like their primary go-to for when you're going off device, because it's smarter stuff than the examples they gave. And then they'll be like, by the way, of course, we'll work with lots of language models, but OpenAI especially.
Yeah, and it's reminiscent of the Google deal where they have Google pays Apple for so that Google is the default search engine on the iPhone, right? And so instead of going out to Google and making search queries on the internet, potentially now we're making text or voice queries straight to a chatbot AI model. And it looks like right now the default, if you want to use that word, is going to be ChatGPT or something from OpenAI.
ChatGPT does have web access, like could reach out and so forth. They haven't really announced yet, and I think they probably will, a perplexity killer. So Perplexity is an app that you can just go right now, go to your browser and say perplexity.ai, and it's a great Google replacement. I barely use Google anymore. I'll use Google if I know the name of somebody or the name of a company and I want a quick, straight up, just give me this about them kind of thing. But if it's actually, I'm trying to find out something, I ask it as a question and I do it to Perplexity, and it has a web index like Google has, but it also has ChatGPT behind it. And together it puts that together and makes a couple paragraphs of an answer with footnotes that I can click into that'll get me to a page. It's a fantastic search tool. I expect OpenAI to come out with their own version of that, and that for Apple to have a thing like that as its like back end. And just okay, let me get to this. I was going to say, they prefer for you to use, even though they take all the money from Google to make them the primary browser showing up, Chrome, they will tell you about Safari, and they'll tell you, look how fast Safari is and how, 4 hours more battery life if you watch videos on Safari versus Chrome. That was one of their things they said. It's not the best thing out there. Neither is Chrome, right? Just as Google is no longer the best search out there. And I think where I want more from Apple is for them to be more clear about how they are taking the support that they're talking about and having it flow into the third-party apps that are there.
Right.
Who uses Pages? Pages is Apple's Microsoft Word.
Right.
And like I don't know of anybody who uses it. And so when they start talking
So like
about
on your Mac, do you have Word on your Mac? Is that what you do?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't use it. I have Word on my Mac, but I would use it 10 times more than Pages, which is almost not at all.
So I'm asking, what do you use?
I use Google Docs.
Oh, Google Docs. Okay.
Yeah. And that's when I'm making something, or I use Notion. I mean, I use Google Docs like when that's absolutely when I need to be making something that's going to be a finished document to go off somewhere else with. And then I turn it into a PDF, or like there's all different things. But, some people are in the world of still needing to make Word files. Okay, that I understand. It exists. It's part, it's their jobs where that has to happen. And so, Microsoft will tell you about their Copilot, how they're integrated, and they'll make that Word file practically for you. Just tell them what you needed to say. Now Apple's trying to do that, but they describe it in terms of Pages that nobody uses, right? Don't tell me about Pages. So like when Mac came out in its early years and everything, what was brilliant about it was not just Mac and their own applications and programs and whatever. It was the kind of stranglehold they put on the developers who worked with them. And they said, here is how your app will cut and paste. Here is how it will drag things. Here is how it will do this and that and the other. So that the look and feel, the way you use the whole machine stays consistent, not just through Apple's own products, but through all the products on their platform, much more so than Windows programs do.
Yeah.
And that's where I say, if you're going to have something that's going to be smart, like a Siri that goes and carries this thing out, make sure it carries it out all the way through, to these other apps that I use.
And I think that's the goal, right? I mean, they announced APIs that work into, so the developers, I mean, this is the developers conference after all, right? Developers, whoever, Microsoft including, right? They're a developer for Mac OS, ironically enough. Well, I'm sure we'll integrate with the Siri bot ChatGPT thing.
Yeah, I think that.
I mean, that's a little interesting. They should, because they're both using ChatGPT anyway. So
yeah, so I think you're right, and it could just be a matter of how they communicate it. They really, I think, didn't emphasize at all, and maybe they've got to get to the point where enough others are, on there doing that. But they push their own software, and some of it. I mean, some of their software is super cool. Like Logic Pro. And again, it shows something about them, that where they spend their effort is on this, extremely complex sound, audio, music type software. It's like you need a PhD to use the thing. But that's where they go. Yeah. There's lots of different kinds of software out there. That's what they go and make.
Do you think there's a team at Apple, like a Pages team at Apple, and there's like 10 guys that sit around and all they do is take care of Pages?
Probably 400, but Yeah.
So ridiculous. That's like the worst. That sounds miserable to me. But.
It's funny because it's the polar opposite of Google, where Google makes a product and they're lucky if it gets from announcement to launch. Then if it gets to launch, you can count on it being gone within a year. They've got like, what products do they have that have stuck around? Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Sheets, Calendar, Gmail. It sounds like a lot, but we're talking about over 25 years, and there's so many products that have like come and gone and that they haven't kept going with. So they just let stuff die. And so you could say to their credit for some of the stuff, and
Right.
Apple just doesn't let it die.
I mean, if you like when you look at the numbers and you pull up, I guess if you ever just want to be in awe, go pull up Apple's income statement, even for a quarter, and the numbers are just ridiculous how big they are. I mean,
Yeah.
Microsoft's too, but
the cash flow,
and despite like this incredible profitability, they are still spending an incredible amount of money on R&D and operating expenses and sales and marketing teams and stuff like that. And it's like, what you're spending like 20 billion a quarter on all this stuff. Like, where is all this money going?
I mean, I don't know where the money's going, but it seems to me it's to their credit that they, like I said, they know themselves. They know what they're good at. They know what their strengths are. They know what got them where they are. They could do the whole thing of like, oh, well, we've already achieved it. Let's not bother with R&D. And it's like, you better do it.
Right.
You better figure out, well, that brings to point the other product that they told more about and so forth, which was the Vision Pro.
Oh, I missed that. That must have been later.
The whole, the giant goggles. Yeah. That's like, and I mean, to me, that thing is it's like the Tesla Roadster. It's very expensive. It's the first thing out, and they will gradually create like a line around it that gets to like less expensive stuff. But first, they're like, if we get a couple people paying us $3,500 a pop,
right?
So,
yeah. One thing I do want to talk about and walk through with you is the idea of the requests going out to this kind of private cloud, I think is what they called it. Mm-hmm. So you make a request on your phone, and then if your phone has enough compute, it answers it. And if it doesn't have enough compute, then it's going to send the request out to this private cloud. And they did say that the cloud will use Apple's custom silicon. So Apple's own chips. It's not NVIDIA chips or AMD chips or anything like that. So to me, that means Apple is probably going to be expanding their data center spend and presence. Traditionally, Apple is not spending a lot of money on CapEx. They don't build the iPhone, right? Foxconn builds the iPhone. So Apple doesn't have like hundreds, tens of factories out there that they've spent billions of dollars on. They use Amazon Web Services to host almost all of iCloud for your photos and messages and stuff like that. So they traditionally haven't been a big data center player, but it sounds like to get this private cloud thing to work using Apple Silicon, I can't imagine them sticking Apple Silicon in like an Amazon web server rack. And maybe they do. I mean, I guess that's a possibility, but I think that more logical approach there is that, they're actually going to probably be expanding their data center presence and to handle all of these requests going out to the cloud.
Yeah. So they've been like, they've had iCloud. So they've had some presence in the whole data services thing, and now it's moving toward a compute cloud. So I think you're right that they've got to expand to handle that. I think that the technology for doing private cloud has been developing for years to where now you don't need an AWS to go set up your own hardware and go, whether you're doing like a Docker kind of thing or, containers where you just like don't have to worry about what else there is running there. And it's probably not getting set up in a similar way of, anybody could come along and buy a certain amount of it. They can get into that later if they want to, I guess. Maybe that goes out of their area of business. But I think they can do it. They can set up shop with their own hardware. And then like what goes on as it comes off your device, that's where, to me, it's really interesting, because it's like it should be doing whatever kind of anonymization like first, so that by the time it's sending it out, it doesn't even have anything going with it. You know, there's like a token that got generated just for the sake of the request that it can use to go pick up, almost like blockchain, you know, where it's like it's got some, you know, unique ID, and you're the only one who knows it because you created it and it got put on the chain and so forth, to where it can be very secure. And since they're not in the business like Microsoft is of, you know, business, you know, they're like, their thing was aimed at the individual. They'll do small businesses and so forth, but in that end of things, they could own that piece.
I think there's a lot to be learned from that, like, especially because the cloud guys have just dominated the market with AI thus far, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. But now, like, Apple has all this immense data. They don't want to share it with anybody, right? They don't even want to have access to it themselves. So they're going to, I think what we're talking about is Apple building their own data centers, expanding data centers with their own custom chips. Not even like, it's not even to the point where, oh, we're going to use NVIDIA chips in here. It's going to be Apple chips, and we're not going to let anybody see this data. Like, I think that's probably a lot of economic value that Apple just kept for themselves right there, right? They're not going to use NVIDIA chips, so that's a lot of dollars that they're not spending. They're not going to do cloud hosting with, or, you know, Amazon or Google or Microsoft. And then they're not sharing the data, right? That data in of itself is valuable. And so I think if I was going to make a bull case for Apple, that is one of the more exciting things there, I think, because it's easy to see how much value is tied to each of those big kind of three categories, given what's happened with NVIDIA and Microsoft and Amazon and Google. And now Apple is going to do all that in house. It's like a vertically integrated tech stack for AI. And the only thing that's not vertically integrated is the actual LLM, which they're apparently licensing from OpenAI.
What I'm most impressed with when it comes to them is, again, I've said it, you know, that they know their business is, you know, so many of the other, what are they called now? They were FANG. Now they're the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. Mag 7.
What's that?
The Mag 7, Magnificent 7.
The Mag 7. Like, so many of them just keep thrashing and floundering for, you know, who are we? Who are we going to serve? How are we going to do it? Basically, their go-to-market. And Apple, they just hit again right on the same, you know, the same market in terms of the same people. They're like, we are aimed at the individual. That's it. You know, you can say maybe small business, whatever. But and then everything around, what's around the individual, you know, convenience and ease of use and personalization and
privacy.
You know, privacy. And like, that's them. And they're saying, I dare any of you be like, we're that's all we are. So we're going to come in here and compete on those things. Right. So, you know,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
There was something I was going to say. Oh, I do think it's yet to be revealed on the OpenAI partnership whether Apple is going to pay OpenAI or OpenAI is going to pay Apple. I think that it shouldn't. I don't think anybody should assume that Apple is necessarily paying OpenAI for that. So I just want to put that out there.
I'm looking at where the value exchange is. That the with others, OpenAI has to be able to pay for the servers and the compute, and that's like very expensive, as you were saying. If Apple sets up its own data center for that, the stuff's got to get loaded on there. But after that, it's like Apple can take care of that themselves. So there's very little cost on the OpenAI side of things, right? Then you're like, well, Google pays $20 billion a year to Apple for them to put this search engine up front as the primary one. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. It could end up being zero in either direction or something.
Yeah, or OpenAI tries to advertise to them or something. I don't know, so that's how they make their money. Or I don't know that that's going to be what happens, but
the only advertising would be the announcing, that it's Siri with OpenAI or whatever.
Yeah, couldn't they build ads into the responses? Would that just piss everybody off?
That'd be Google. They're not. That's not their model.
They're like, you're like, hey, help me solve this math problem, and they're like, sure, I'm happy to help, but first, let me tell you about these amazing deals at Temu right now on power tools.
Yeah, no,
that's coming. I'm calling it here today that somebody, whether it's Anthropic or OpenAI, somebody is going to build ads into the responses, and it is going to piss everyone off. And then they'll probably take it off, but I think it will happen.
So already, if you the free GPTs, so if you use the $20 a month, and now maybe it's coming to the folks that don't pay the $20 a month. Since GPT 4.0 is out more broadly, I think they said the GPTs are going to come out more broadly. But the people who make the GPTs, some of them I've seen, maybe many of them, there is an ad built into the conversation. It's like you're going and saying whatever, and it's like, well, it would work a lot better if you had polyrazzmatazz. So
it's like you listen to podcasts, and anybody that listens to podcasts, like there's always that, like it's like the podcaster asks a question, and John, hey, what do you think about this? It's like, and now we need to take a brief moment to talk about our sponsors. I use Texas Instruments.
Yeah, so now that you can't do that, don't mention them because they're not paying us. So yeah, it's a good point you made there, Bryce. And you reminded me. Let's take a minute. I'd like to mention our sponsor for this particular. No, we don't have.
Yeah, exactly. There was a question here. I'm gonna put this on the screen. I use PI. You guys use that? Do you know what he's talking about?
It actually makes me think of something else, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I did a little.
Anybody else has questions, please put them in the comments. We'll answer them.
So good question, Pavel. That's I don't use it regularly. Have used it, and it's very good, especially at conversation. It's like a good conversation.
What is it, John? I guess I'm not familiar with this. I don't even know.
It's another one of the language models. Originally, I thought they were just using somebody else's, but I think ultimately they have their own kind of model behind it. So you've got like OpenAI GPT 4.0, you've got Anthropic Claude, and you've got like maybe next one down is Pi. The guy who started. Is it the guy who started Netflix? Is a co-founder? What's his name?
Not Reed Hastings, is it?
Yeah, Reed Hastings. I thought he was the co-founder for Pi, and the other co-founder for Pi left and became Google's chief AI officer. Yeah, the DeepMind guy.
Oh, really?
Not that. Yeah, there's two of them, and they're both. One of them is still the head of DeepMind, and the other one left and started Pi, but Pi's not the name of the company. Inflection AI, and Suleiman, right? Mustafa Suleiman, he went back to Google. Reed is still at Inflection doing Pi, but basically when Suleiman left, they had to kind of come out with a quick like soft shoe dance, like make it look like everything's fine. Oh no, we meant for that to happen.
Right.
And we're still going and all this kind of thing. So they're maybe in some trouble figuring out what's unique, but they have a really good I call it really good chatbot.
By the way, on like people in AI struggling, I don't think we ever talked about was it Stability AI? Like
Oh my
they
God.
were
Yeah.
they had to go out and raise money again because they were out of funding.
Yeah. So I thought I heard a
Like
rumor.
3 weeks ago.
Heard a rumor they were getting bought by AMD.
Really?
Yeah, but
I'm gonna look that up while we're talking.
yeah, you look that up, and I'll say something else here, which is Pablo reminded me of, which is there's another kind of pie at the extreme opposite end of the spectrum, which is like Raspberry Pi, which is what hackers and makers use to make these little microelectronics. They just came out with they call it a hat, but an extra board that hooks on it so that that's for AI. And now down to the end of tinkerers and hobbyists, they can go be doing like real AI stuff. And like done it in various ways all along, but this like makes it much easier to get into doing like machine learning models that, the kind of thing that'll like recognize a face and pick up on things in a room. It'll do that kind of stuff, rapidly for $100. So that the other direction of Pi is also getting into AI.
So here's the scoop on Stability AI. I guess later part of last year, they run out of money. They raised like $100 million from VCs in 2022. And then, they're giving the software away for free. And they, so Intel invested 20 million. So maybe Intel was the one that was thinking about buying them. But they, so as of October 2023, they had 153 million in expenses and 11 million in revenue. They had $4 million of cash left, and they had $100 million in liabilities to their cloud providers. So yeah, they were in a little bit of a pickle. And so anyways, it's just crazy. Again, like you're hearing about this Pi, there was Stability AI, there's Mistral. Like what, I really don't know what edge these other companies have at this point. And if they don't, like, OpenAI and Anthropic are going to end up with all the money, right?
What about somebody like
Pablo says, what is this world coming to, by the way?
So that's what we all want to know, is trying to figure that out. They're trying to just be a step ahead of predicting so we can, try to take some intelligent action in the world. But so there's a company like Mistral, Mistral. I think it's a French company.
Yeah.
And they make one of the top, they've made like one of the top lines of language models. Like, we in my company, we use Mixtral, Mixtral. And what I think these open source companies can do is have here's the free model, anybody can go and use it. But hey, guess what? We who built it know a heck of a lot. And if you, we use the example, I used the example of PepsiCo last week, but it could be, Nabisco, or like sticking to food and drink here, right. But any like giant international conglomerate, they're like, we want our language model. We want to have our own AI. And these are the kind of companies that can go and help them do it at, $10 million a pop. Like I'll do one for you, 50 million from you and 10 million from you, and just like start making all the big companies want it for themselves.
Sure. I mean, that may be their only option at some point, because I don't know that consumers are going to be signing up for Mistral subscriptions for.
But I don't think they're even aiming for
Plus or whatever.
They didn't put it out there for consumers. It's not.
Then what? I don't know what the goal then. I mean, it has to be the enterprise thing then, right?
Yeah, why not?
They raised $100 million on what kind of business premise?
Well, I mean, businesses have a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah.
How much money flows through? If I said, what is the market for SaaS applications?
Yeah,
across the board, it's probably $1 trillion.
Yeah, hundreds of billions for sure.
It's a lot of money,
Yeah.
and so it starts to add up after the first couple $100 billion. It starts to add up. So,
by the way, Pablo says, wait, that was the comment. Apple's intelligence must be closed-ended, in my opinion. He also said I should try Pi before it goes away.
oh, that's sad. Like, I hope it doesn't go away. But like, yes, they do have to figure out their business models and so forth. But I mean, I come back around to wait. Let me go back first on that comment. He's saying that what is he close end? You mean because is that a joke on Apple and intelligence? But no, I mean, like they're my concern with what I saw from them is that it's kind of close to just around what Apple's own stuff is versus them saying we're going to be like the front end for you to the world of intelligence. We're your computer. We should be doing that for you. But they didn't kind of take that position.
Yeah.
I was going to say, who is it? Palantir kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
You've got there's still business out there, and they want to be using AI, and so companies that can help them use AI, there's a ton of opportunity, I think.
Let's see here. Before we go, I do want to share a plug here. So let's see here. Cody and I wrote a book that's available on Amazon.
Yes.
It's How to Invest in the AI Revolution. And we went through and valued and ranked and discussed the AI strategies of all of the Mag 7 companies and then a bunch of others. And then there's a bunch of other helpful stuff in there about the robotics revolution and everything. And it was the #1 new release, like in investing books category on Amazon last week. So anyways, for anybody, if you liked what you heard today and want to learn more, obviously I'm biased. I co-authored it. But I am plugging, shameless plug there for our own book. But
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. I checked it out there. I haven't picked it up yet, but I did check it out.
We'll send you a complimentary copy.
No, there. That's okay. I want to get it. That way I can comment on it, on Amazon. So,
but final thoughts. We're about an hour in here, John.
Well, we spent most of it on Apple, and if you think of the top, companies and so forth, they were, I think, the only ones left maybe that hadn't sort of said, here's our take, here's who we're going to be in the new AI world.
Pablo.
And so I think that basically now they're all here, right?
Everybody's at the party.
Yeah.
I think Tesla is like one, like we talk about it a lot, but the rest of the world, CNBC, Financial Times, like they're not clamoring about what's Tesla's AI strategy. Everybody kind of knows, like they're building self-driving cars. They're going to build robots, right?
You heard about Memphis?
No.
So Tesla is building, or XAI.
XAI. Okay. Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Yes.
Is building like an enormous compute facility in Memphis, and it's going to be something else.
Yep. There's a lot happening, and it's amazing. I mean, we do these.
I got to say before we go.
Okay.
I'm a big SpaceX fan. I know you guys are, but I watched the whole launch and the landing and everything, and people, we're living through history right now.
It is. It was exciting. John's talking about the Starship launch that happened Friday.
Yeah, Tesla Launch 4. Yep.
Yeah, and it was almost like a perfect success. Both the booster and the upper stage landed like they were supposed to, more or less, in the ocean. Obviously, they didn't land them like on land or anything quite yet because they're still in testing. Last time, one of them blew up, so not going to bring that back to Earth yet. But I do think the next time they launch the booster the first stage will come back and land in Texas at the Godzilla tower.
Mechagodzilla, the chopsticks.
Yeah,
Yes.
the chopsticks, and it will catch it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if the second stage will land or on land on a continent, but like once the I guess this is the historic part of it. The second even Falcon, which is SpaceX's existing rocket, does not have a reusable second stage, and that's the piece that actually carries the payload or the humans or whatever, right, into space. And with Starship, if that big, the stainless steel Starship can actually land successfully on the ground, that will be historic because it will be the first time ever that a second stage, can, just like an airplane, right? You can land it, stack it back up with refuel it, and shoot off again, right? And that's the idea. And you don't have to go build a new one every time you want to launch. And
they're like talking about like the vision there is, and it should be, like in our lifetimes, and within the next 10 years, you see it like multiple launches per day from multiple launch pads around the world, just rockets going around and whatever. And you guys were the ones who pointed out to me how just with it, you look at this thing, it is, what is it? It's taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's enormous.
It's like the largest flying object we've ever built or something like that.
Largest flying object that's ever gone to space. Yes. Yeah. And it can fit maybe, I don't know if it's 100, but it can fit like lots of astronauts if,
oh yeah.
So
the mass to orbit, I will look up just before we go because it's an incredible number. It's Leo. Starship can call 200 tons of mass to Leo, low Earth orbit.
That's just it's incredible.
Yeah.
And so like I guess if you're not into rockets, fine. I wasn't really, but as I think about all of what this can do, it can get from one side of the world to the other in 1 hour or half an hour or something. And it can carry all that much and go different places with it, whatever. It's just pretty. And so like you got like, I'm gonna go and be all fanboy, but just from one brain and lots of others who help, but you've got an auto industry that had 3 companies and you couldn't possibly make a fourth. When I was growing up, the idea of there being a different auto company in the U.S. auto company than the 3 was like unheard of.
Sure.
So you got an auto company, you got a solar company, you got a space company, you got the satellites for
internet, Starlink
for internet. You've got robots. You've got
Neuralink brain chips.
Brain chips. You got tunnels. You got. Are you kidding? This is like Edison.
It's hard to wrap your head around, and yet he's getting a lot of hate right now. So
yeah,
another plug: if you're a Tesla shareholder, go vote your shares. Tomorrow is the deadline, or Wednesday maybe is the deadline. I would say vote for Elon's pay package and the reincorporation in Texas. I'm a Tesla shareholder, so again biased, but I'm gonna play.
I wanted to just fanboy about that. It's incredible.
All right. That's it for this week, everybody. We'll be back same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern, next week, next Monday. Thanks, John.
All right. We'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.
See ya.